Welcome back. We're still at it, the State of the National Address. Just before we went on break, Collins, I asked you about Uhuru Kenyatta versus the courts. I mean, it looks like a bitter man. I mean, all the way back to 2013 when he was taking over office, we didn't know that his election was annulled by the courts as well. And we've sort of seen this battle between him and the courts in his entire tenure. In fact, there are conversations that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is one of the president where we've seen him contravene court orders more than any other president that Kenya has ever seen. Is it okay for us to talk about Uhuru Kenyatta and the court?
It's okay for us to do so.
Yes.
I like Uhuru as a person, but really, with regards to respect to the rule of law,
yes,
he gets zero. right from the re-election, I think that is why he decided to divorce himself from judiciary as an arm of government. And I think you see, the work of the judiciary is to interpret the law. And for them, they are not interested with the politics of the day. They're just interested with reading the law, saying because of 1, 2, 3, because reading it with the spirit of the Constitution, this is legal, this is not legal. And that's why you see, they'd say, for instance, the position of CAS is illegal. They came out and said the position of the militarization is illegal. Even the transfer of Nairobi Metropolitan Services was an illegal entity.
Yes.
Talk about now the biggest thing that has made the president to be so much disinterested with this judiciary is the BBI judgment. And you saw, even in the appointment of judges, where the Constitution talks about the role of the president to be that of a conveyor belt. Once the JSC has appointed the judges, yours is to just appoint. Yes. Once the JSC has vetted and done all the necessary work, yours is to appoint. You know, the president in JSC has more members than even the judiciary. Right from the AG, there are 2 people who are nominated by the president. The head of public service, equally an appointee of the president. I mean, so if the president wanted the judges not to make it past the JSC, those are his people. It is so easy for the president through the AG to say these people have questionable character, that we have these reports from NIS, and so these people cannot, they cannot hold office as judges. But you see, the president, once he's been given a list, he wants to cherry pick who he wants to appoint and who he does not want to appoint. And he did this even during the time of Willie Mutunga, but just after some time he decided to appoint them. But you saw, even when he was appointing the judges, he was telling the CJ and those other judges, I'm not going to appoint them. The courts have pronounced themselves. The courts have even asked the Chief Justice to go ahead and appoint those judges, but I don't know, the Chief Justice that we have, he had decided to appeal that judgment. But really, it is just setting a very bad precedence. You know, these 3 arms of government need to offer checks and balances to each other.
Yes.
And they need to be independent of each other. And the president needs to treat the others, like he needs to treat the CJ with the same magnitude of respect that they give the speakers of the houses. And I don't see that coming out, because you see the kind of, if for instance, National Assembly passes a legislation that the president does not want, the president has a recourse of not assenting to that law, but sending the law back to the National Assembly with his comments. If the National Assembly can raise to third quorum, they can overturn the decisions of the president.
Yes.
And if they overturn the decision of the president, even if the president does not assent to it, they become law. But you see, if you look at what happens with regards to now the judiciary gives an order. For instance, even the DCI now is supposed to be in prison for four months. Mm-hmm. He's not there. I don't think he's going to be in prison at any time. Yes. You've seen such sanctions being given to even CS Matiang'i. You've seen there's just a huge contempt that comes with court, and it's setting a very bad precedence, because after this, then the normal Kenyans will be treating courts as just pedestal talks, or courts as barazas that people stand and talk what they want, and they're not going to implement whatever thing they say at the end of the day. Yes. I mean, the president, his legitimacy flows from the judiciary, because he was sworn in by the Chief Justice. So his legitimacy springs from the judiciary. But if his legitimacy springs from the judiciary, you'd want to see him giving respect to the judiciary. If the judiciary does not conform with what you're saying, I mean, go back to the table, look at that, and see how you're going to conform to that, what the judiciary said. Or if you don't want to respect them, call them to a table, tell them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 policies are about my legacy. Please don't hamper that.
Yes.
But I think the biggest problem to the president and making him not to respect the rule of law is the AG. I mean, this is the worst AG we've ever had since the history of this country. And I don't know because he's related to the president or not. For me, and he comes from the judiciary. He was a judge.
Yes.
You'd expect him coming from the judiciary
to advise the president properly on the way he's supposed to go about
really,
this
and
process.
to have that experience, knowing
Yes.
these things are going to be legal. But this is the worst AG ever. I mean, people used to say Amos Wako was a lame duck, or
Yes.
I mean, AG.
Is it okay for us to say this is the worst AG, or this is President Uhuru Kenyatta getting advice but then moves on to have his way?
No. This is the worst AG. Really, it's not about. This is the worst AG. There are a lot of things in. For instance,
you like to think that even the BBI process, it was right there. He knew exactly how it can be constitutional and non-constitutional, isn't it?
Totally.
Yes.
Totally. I mean, he is the principal legal advisor of the president.
Yes.
Whether the president takes your advice or not, the buck stops with you. I mean, really, look, for instance, the issue of the maritime dispute that we had with Somalia. Look at the kind of defense that we set there. I mean, really, we paid people around 140 billion for them to just file 4 pages document in a court where the other councils are filing about 20,000 pages. 4 pages in defending our maritime border. And now you see the president now is out here saying, we will not yield, I don't know, can't do what, won't do what. I mean, it's just about the AG, the man, the AG, and that office. This is the worst AG we've ever had. And I don't fear saying that.
Yes.
All lawyers, all advocates out there know that this is the worst AG we've ever had. And I think even the LSK has tried to sanction him and to try and remove him together with the Solicitor General, but it has been impossible.
Yes.
But I look forward to the next government where we can be having a sober AG who can advise the president really, even with this contempt that the president is giving to the judicial decisions stems from the AG.
Yes.
Stems from the AG really. We're having a person who sits in the JSC. He should be able to advise the president and tell the president, no, really, here you don't have any recourse, just appoint these people. But he's not doing that. You see him even being a party to these things in court, defending the president. And you're wondering, what kind of AG is this? Has he not done law? I mean, this is not just a presidential appointee, someone who has a legal background. And so you'd expect him to do things in accordance with the law, but you don't see that coming out really.
Pretty
For me,
much.
I think the buck stops with the AG and the president. But you know, Kenyans are not going to blame the AG because they don't know the AG. But
They
for
would
us,
look at Uhuru Kenyatta and say, well, it's you who's not adhering to this law, isn't
yeah,
it?
you look at the BBI judgment. Everything is about the AG.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that the AG would have advised the president from the onset. I mean, really, anyone would know. Politically speaking, I think that decision was proper from the courts. But legally speaking, that was the worst decision we've ever had from the courts. But looking at it from the perspective of the president and his advisor, the advisor ought to have advised the president on there are a lot of things that BBI judgment could have easily been avoided. For instance, now later is when they are realizing we should have had Dennis Waweru and Junet Mohammed to be the
Being
proposers
the
of this.
proponents of the BBI document.
Later when they're in court. I mean, honestly.
All right, Chacha, let's clear this conversation for Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. You could hear that the question about Uhuru Kenyatta versus the courts, and we've seen a lot of economic decisions that have been turned down by the courts as well. In fact, Uhuru Kenyatta has resented the court more than once in a public domain. In fact, we do know they clashed with the former Chief Justice Maraga, and I quote in court, he said, you can't have your way. When I want to do my things as well, you come back and give me the negative ruling on that. Chacha, if there's anything that Uhuru Kenyatta has not done for this country, can he blame the court system?
Really, the president is totally wrong by blaming the judiciary for the wrongs that are committed by the government.
Yes.
And in fact, this is the president's worst legacy project, if you may call it.
Yes.
This is one of the worst record that the president has had with the judiciary. And it started way back after the nullification of the presidential elections, where the president fumed on that he will revisit the matter. And indeed, true to his word, he has been at loggerhead with the judiciary a couple of times. One with the Chief Justice, where the Chief Justice had to stand firm to say that the president cannot have his cake and eat it. He can't always have his way.
Yes.
And we thank the judiciary for remaining firm. In fact, the judiciary has become the people's watchdog, with the civil society having a couple of challenges. It is the judiciary that is coming in to protect the Kenyans. look at here the case of the family, the case involving even Miguna. However politically volatile it was, really the judiciary, the courts have pronounced themselves on the matter, and they said that Miguna should be allowed to travel to Kenya. Look at the case of the appointment of the judges.
Yes.
The Judicial Service Commission did carry interviews and recommend judges to be appointed, and the president reneged on that. Really, as the president is not above the law. Gone are the days when the president used to be imperial, used to have all the tyrannical powers. We are not in the Kanu de Nyayo era of a one-man show where he was number one in everything. We are in a more transparent, a more accountable, and a more rule-governed system. So in this case, we are saying that the president here has done very poorly. In fact, registered a dismal performance. Talk about like now the issue of BBI. The court here, we are talking of the High Court, the Court of Appeal, really affirmed the basis that are here. The due process was not followed in the constitution of the committee, and the entire process was flawed from the beginning. And here we are saying now the Attorney General, whom actually we are blaming because he's the chief advisor of the president,
yes,
that is one Kihara Kariuki, has indeed not performed his role to the expectations, because when the president is making such wrong decisions, it means he's getting wrong advice from the from the Attorney General. And in this case, the Attorney General here has also performed quite dismally. In fact, worse than even the time we had Amos Wako during the Nyayo era.
Yes.
In fact, the previous one that did a fairly good job. So in this case, going forward, we must follow the rule of, we must respect the judiciary. The executive, the executive arm of the government should not twist the judiciary. Neither should it twist the parliament,
yes,
that is the National Assembly and the Senate. So we need a more accountable, more transparent system. We are not in a dictatorial kind of regime. Thank you.
Pretty much. Just confirming, Yvonne, do we have time, or this is what we're supposed to end? Just right now. Wow. Ha! That's exactly what we had then for you this morning. You can actually get talking to us at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. The question this morning was, what is President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy? He did say, if you judge him on the previous presidents we've already had, he's performed the best among them. Do you agree? At Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Collins, thank you very much for taking your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
Chacha, thank you very much for taking your time this morning, sir. Fantastic. And
yeah, thank you too, sir.
Anytime. And that's exactly how we come to the end of the economic review this morning. Good morning and enjoy your day.